You're listening to Neurodivergent Mates. Hello and welcome to another episode of Neurodivergent Mates. My name's Will Wheeler, joined with my main man, Photon John. What's going on, brother?
Oh, deja vu. Feels like it was only 3 days ago.
A few days ago. Yeah, we were on a few days ago. I think, so just for all of our listeners, so we normally try to get a podcast out every 2 weeks. And then we've had a few people from overseas. And then the person we've got coming on today reached out to us and said, "Oh man, I've got like a film that I'm launching in like the next week or something like that." We're like, "Oh, let's try and get him on because it sounds pretty awesome." So rather than us sit here and speak a little bit of crap, we might as well get him on since we've spoken about. So today what we're going to be covering is LGBTQI plus and neurodivergent film. So I'd like to welcome our guest, Kyle Goldfinch. Kyle, what's going on, my man?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. You know, like I said, it was pretty short notice, but I'm glad that we're sort of able to help, because I think the cool thing with the film and all that type of stuff is that it's right up our alley. It's a lot of topics that, you know, we're passionate about, and maybe it's not something that's talked a lot. So, you know, we're sort of like, yeah, man, let's get this on. Let's try and help out the community as much as we can. So, no, thank you for reaching out to us.
I would also like to say, as an autistic person, my whole identity is just short notice. Everything is short notice. So
No problem, man. No need to apologize. But what we will do before we do get started, we might just do a shout out to anyone who hasn't done so. Please subscribe, like, and follow to all of our social media platforms. We're available on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Hey, Photon John, I'm getting that down pretty well pat now, my man.
You are, my man. There's no accidental Twitters.
Yeah. For some reason, whenever I see Twitch, I'm always about to go Twitter. You know what I mean? But it's all good. And also, too, if anyone's got any questions for us, please feel free to shoot it into the comments section, and we'll try and get to them. Do you know what I do find before we do get stuck into this? When this goes live on like Facebook and that, because remember, Photon John, we get like people will ask us a question, and it could be like a little bit after we've sort of asked it, and it's like, how's that person asking that now? Because what happens, I think, like the social media platforms they release it about, I don't know, like a minute later or something like that, because I think they're trying to like look for any inappropriate stuff or anything like that. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic here. But
I've had us up on socials before while we were doing a podcast, and it's a bit behind.
Yeah, totally. So please, any questions you might have, please shoot it through to us, and let's rock and roll. So Kyle, you know, we're having a bit of a chat beforehand, but you know, please share a little bit about yourself. Be as in depth as possible. No shame here, man.
No need, no shame.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So my name's Kyle. I'm a filmmaker, a writer, producer. I do lots of other things as well. I specialize a lot in writing and producing content. And I create content. I'm autistic myself, and the things that I really love talking about are like basically from my own experience. So that being autistic, queer representation, and you know, just telling it like it is. The other thing I'm really passionate about is also like just watching films, film programming. And actually one of the things that's really interesting about me is I get into a world of film programming, except when I grew up, I actually hated movies. So That's a really interesting little tidbit.
Sorry, can I? So when you grew up, you hated movies. Is that
I
correct?
actually hated going to the cinema because as an autistic person, I found the cinema to be incredibly overstimulating. And I think that as I grew up, we weren't having these conversations 20 years ago about the way in which cinemas were really overstimulating and things like that. So that's not to say that right now I am in film programming and I watch films for a living and I hate movies. It's just that I actually spent a lot of my time not realizing that I actually really was afraid of the cinema because of all the loud noises, big screens, things like that. The things that work within the kind of movie business and the marketability of movies are the things that drove me away because of me being autistic. And I'm so glad now that, sorry, this is going totally off topic.
No, it's actually really interesting because I have never thought about it that way before.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to know.
It's bringing us into the conversation because now we're having these conversations about open captioning and relaxed screenings and things like that. And I really love that. And actually, we'll kind of talk more about kind of this sort of creation of the project. But yeah, I actually a couple of years ago, as part of the creating the film, I actually went to my first relaxed screening as an autistic person. And my, oh my, do I have stories.
Sorry. Can I just ask, a relaxed screening, is that what? Can you describe what that is?
So a relaxed screening basically takes onto the consideration that somebody who is autistic or somebody who maybe kind of have sensory issues, whoever they are, will want to go to the movies but can't actually go to a film. So they need to do things like let an audience know if a film has any specific sounding things. So if a thunder effect or a massive change of light or things like that. The lights in the cinema are also not too bright, not too dark, so they're a little bit more brighter. And there's also can also be some movement. So there's the idea that it doesn't have to be this strict, very uniform, you sit down for 2 hours, you watch the previews, and then you watch the movie. And I think that's really great. Although I will say, as a neurodiverse person, I saw a really fantastic documentary while we were creating the film, and it actually, while I say relaxed screening, I have to tell you, because the way that they did it, they had a little ticker that ticked down from 20 to 1. It actually made the audience feel a lot more stressed.
Okay.
I was like, interesting. But yeah, no. But I really love that we're having these discussions now, and I'm really proud to be in an industry that's really catering for people like me and people who might be even more who have maybe more sensitivity issues than I do, which I'm really proud of.
Which is what we're all about. It's what we're all about, just opening up conversations about.
Yeah, totally. Just out of curiosity, you were talking about the ticker thing ticking down, right? Now, do you reckon the people who, so this was at the sorry, I forget what it was called again. What was the
relaxed screening?
A relaxed screening.
Yeah.
So are those have they been developed by working in with, say, the community at all? Or is it people going, I think they need this, so let's do this?
I think it's a really good point. I've actually got no idea how they do it because it's something that's kind of new to me as well. But I would assume, you could think of it in terms of both ways, and the fact that I'm not 100% sure whether they do. I think there's a lot of what I sometimes call passive activism, where it's really great, but it's you actually don't have anyone in the community who's sort of fostering and engaging with this and really driving this forward and telling you what we actually need, rather than somebody being yeah, this seems cool, they'll totally be okay with this. But honestly, I think all conversations are valid, and all considerations and all contributions are valid in this debate, because I think it's incredibly important and influential that we're constantly continuing to have this discussion. And yeah, so
no, I think that's a really good point you made at the end there, because the biggest thing I find, especially say within the neurodiversity community, people who may not be neurodivergent, they're wanting to help, they're wanting to try. And then sometimes people don't get that right. And then, man, the community will just shut them down type of thing. And it's look, don't shut them down. let's try to work with these people and help them to better understand, maybe, rather than shoot them down and stuff like that. But we do have to start somewhere, and we can build from that, if that makes sense there.
Yeah.
Totally. So, you got into film work, all that. Can you go maybe a little bit more in depth into, your film work and what you're really passionate about, and I suppose what you're trying to bring. So, we are going to be talking about your film today, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec. But it'll be sort of interesting to hear about, the work that you do and what you're really trying to achieve from the films that you're creating.
Well, firstly, as I said, I sort of do a lot. So the idea of sort of condensing it down, and because I'll be here for 2 days if I went through everything that I did. But look, I do a lot of different stuff. And right now, in terms of what I'm here today, is that I really am someone here to talk about my film work and what I do. And within that, I am a filmmaker first, and I love that. And I really want to engage in topics that both, really asks a lot of questions, because I think we don't ask a lot of questions. And I feel like, as you just kind of said, Will, that, when you ask the wrong question, you might be hounded down. And I think that there is something to there's almost a bit of like there's opportunity there to make mistakes and be aware of that. But as a filmmaker myself, currently I am driven towards scripted, narrative, queer, neurodiverse content, because I want to have a conversation, and I want to build on this level of understanding our community from a different perspective, this level of autonomy and this level of authenticity and this level of respect, through the fact that we as autistic people have our own bodies, we deserve to have our own stories. And I think we are in this stage now of self-reclamation and this stage of being understanding that we are queer people and we are autistic people, and some of us are together, some of us are either, and we deserve to tell our own stories in that very specific thing from our own perspective, because audiences get it. They know, and they understand if someone just hasn't done that research, or that they're not part of that community. And I think that's the main thing. So in terms of my work, I'm really excited to be a writer producer. And now, hopefully, once this film is done, we'll continue developing it, and then also work on other people's stuff and help support other neurodiverse, other queer, other Eurasian, other people who want to tell stories that I can help bring into the fold as well, which is really exciting.
No. That's cool. That's cool. I like your approach to everything there. So, I think what we really do we need to get into this film, mate. Myself,
enough.
Yeah, totally. So myself and Ferdinand, you gave us a copy of it yesterday to check it out. Before we go in depth into it, did you want to maybe just share what the name of it is and a little bit about it? Then we can go into a little bit more of a chat about it.
Yeah, 100%. So it's a film that I had been developing for many, many, many years, called Neuromance. And it's a story about a young gay guy with autism, and he navigates the world of Sydney dating, which, as we all know, being gay and neurodiverse is quite scary and terrifying and weird. And basically has a terrible day, and his two lesbian best friends sign him up for Grindr. And I can actually say that because we actually got Grindr as part of the film, which was quite amazing.
Oh, cool.
And he meets this beautiful guy, and you guys will know the rest of it. And he goes to a slam poetry night, and it's just really, the rest is history. It's a really beautiful rom-com. I love it, told through a very different perspective, and I can't wait for people to see it.
It was cool. I actually really enjoyed it. I was like, oh, there was some funny moments in it.
Yeah.
And then I think, and are we allowed to say too much? What do you want us not to say? What should we say and not say?
I want you to go through the whole film and just tell me every piece of dialogue that's in the film.
Oh, really?
Okay, so scene and.
Okay, I don't know if I want to give away the ending. You know what I mean? But I think it's pretty obvious what the ending would be. But no, it was, sorry. But before I do go into anything, was some of that a lot based on some of your life experience?
I think as I said, I do like to write very autobiographically, but because my parents are there, my parents are definitely not the parents in the film, so my parents can rest easy. I think that everything has a level of authenticity to it from my perspective, but also everything is piped up because it is a comedy and it is a romantic comedy. And within that, you kind of have to play a little bit with slapstick and things like that. But I mean, I haven't met my Josh, unfortunately. So that's clearly a faking lie. Unfortunately.
Maybe after the film, mate.
I mean, clearly, hopefully. Imagine I do this all for the perspective. I'm on your podcast tonight.
Yeah.
I've got a film, going to a film festival. I just literally, this becomes my audition for the goddamn Bachelor.
Yeah, cool. If anyone's listening, Kyle's ready for it. You know.
I mean, I'm clearly ready for it. Am I emotionally availability ready for it? That's a completely different question. But am I ready for a relationship? Yes.
Yeah, cool.
So, I mean, getting a little into the film, you know, I mean, the thing that hit me immediately, and some of our viewers will know and some won't, that I'm bisexual and autistic. I don't know if dichotomy is the right word, but that's a double-edged sword of dealing with your sexuality and being neurodivergent, because you're already dealing with the difficulties that, you know, can, thankfully not as much as time goes on, but certainly when I was a kid, you know, you can face in just coming out and being yourself, but then combined with trying to move around within the right scene for you while not, you know, being the best always at navigating those sort of intense social interactions you have to have. That hit me pretty hard. I was kind of thinking while I was watching it, there's going to be people in the audience, you know, who watch that film, you know, when it premieres and who watch it afterwards, who are going to get that same feeling, I think. So I think you certainly achieved that sort of connection with me, at least. I think it'll go well.
And I thought the cool thing was, you know, you were really able to. So for me, as a person watching it who's not homosexual, I was able to really get the idea and feeling of what it would be like to be that person and autistic as well. If that makes sense, you know, as best as I could, not being that, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm glad that you both feel like that. And I really do take the point, John, that you said about that. And I think what's so great about Neuromance, but also the next generation of ideas, is that we are actually considering intersectionality as a part of our stories. And I think I'm not going to be the last person that creates a story about the intersectionality between queerness and neurodiversity. I'm not the first, but I definitely won't be the last. And I think I would implore you actually to explore this idea of your own story and what you can then give. And maybe there's a way of you creating and building on that conversation, because I think all of us have the opportunity of being able to build on that conversation around neurodiversity, of queerness, and being a part of that conversation and really kind of being a contributor to the way in which our community is spoken about in that way.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little inspired actually, because I've just finished binging Boy Swallows Universe as well. So like,
I haven't seen it yet.
It's so good. I'm getting all this Australian content that I relate to a lot. You know,
because I originally came from Brisbane and Kev's from Brisbane, so a lot of it's filmed up in Brisbane. So we are like, oh my god, there's that place. You know what I mean? So that's why I suppose for us it's sort of cool. But you know, like we were talking about before, it was really interesting at the beginning of the film how there was the parents there. You know, would you say trying to convince the boy? Sorry, what was the boy's name in the film? Nate. Trying to convince Nate that he wasn't gay. He was only having these feelings because he was autistic. Do you know what I mean? And I you know, we were talking that, you know, this has probably been quite a common thing for a lot of people, just like Nate, who have gone through similar stuff.
Yeah, well, absolutely, 100%. And I think that is so much an important part of that opening scene is I think that the mother in that scene, who coincidentally is named Karen. I will make you guys make a conclusion of what you want out of that particular thing. But I just want people to realize that I think that for a person like Nate, this isn't a strange occurrence where people are looking at the intersectionality of queerness and disability and going, as a parent, could I have both? And I think now we're in the opportunity of saying yes, but given like 5 or 10 years ago, the conversation was definitely not that. You know, when I came out as gay, there was still like, there was still questions that could be asked. And while for myself, there was no restaurant, there was no awkwardness, there was no fish tank, there was no feeling like that, there was no pepper grinder asking if I like anal, thank God. There was still this level of misunderstanding, not because it's a negative thing, not because people are homophobic, but just people didn't really understand. And I'm glad that we live in a society that is not completely accepting, but we have moved so much along the way. And I know that if I can take this time to say that we are now living in a time where it does feel like we're regressing in terms of our openness to societies and to society's other type of people, like all parts of our beautiful community. And I think it's just important that we, celebrate who we are and how different we are and support each other. And if you don't like it, just chill.
Sorry, you go, Kev.
I was just going to ask, getting a little long in the tooth these days. And so, remembering growing up as a kid in the 80s and the conversation around neurodivergence didn't exist. There was nothing. Even people, specialists in the field barely knew what it was. But, the conversation around being queer was very different and hateful. And I've just, I remember in the 90s, it kind of started to become okay, but it was still, there were different sections of society who were okay and not, and the ones who were not were still quite often more violent, and it was a bit more vicious than I would say it seems today. That progress, have you seen that throughout your life? I think it's I'm sort of again getting at this sort of double-edged thing of like being both and seeing both progress. Is there anything in particular that you've seen throughout your life, sort of, because you mentioned briefly, when you were younger and how it was then?
Look, as I said,
are you hopeful?
Am I hopeful?
Yeah.
Look, there's two ways of answering that with right now in terms of the way in which we look at the world, which is the more louder we speak, the louder people are going to try and fight us. And so I think that's the important part to point in that. But I also think the conversations themselves are changing. And I think it's on us as a community to seek refuge and be proud. I will say, when I originally came out, and I was 16 years old when I came out and got my first when I came out, but when I got my diagnosis as being as part of this beautiful neurodiverse community, I was known then, and that diagnosis was known then as having Asperger's syndrome. Now, of course, if you go through all of my notes, that's what I have. And I have, gone through and identified with having the fact that I am, having Asperger's syndrome disorder for such a long time. And I was thinking, and I remember, because when I was still living in Western Sydney, living with my parents, this is when the NDIS was starting to come out. Sorry for my long-winded answers.
It was a long-winded question.
It's a long, yeah, exactly. I blame you. When the NDIS was coming out, I was sort of asking these questions relating to the way that the NDIS, has been written, and I thought, can I actually get that? Can I actually be able to be a part of that? And it spearheaded this conversation around, the fact that because of my diagnosis and the way that it is on paper, can I be seen to be? Am I actually autistic enough to be considered autistic? And I'm so glad to come to you today and say, well, yes, I am.
Really?
Yeah. And I think
this is hope for my application.
Well, actually, I don't have the NDIS yet.
Oh,
so
right, yeah.
unfortunately, I can't help you in that particular. But I think it's just the idea that like these ideas and these terminologies and things that change. And I think, so to answer your question, I think it gives me a level of hope, yes. And I think that we as a society are changing. And I'm glad now that I know enough and I've educated myself enough to think about our beautiful neurodiverse community. And I don't want to use Asperger's anymore because that guy's a dick. Like that guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad to be a part of this beautiful community, and that, you know, I share the space with, you know, people that have come before me, you know, Josh Thomas and Chloe Hayden, and, you know, the people that are of course, hopefully going to be inspired, hopefully to Neuromance and want to be a part of this beautiful space of neurodiverse color. Does that answer the question?
Yes. But I love seeing young people and their attitudes towards this, and you know, the queer community as well, because you know, it's too late for me. I grew up during the eras that I grew up with, and I'm going to have to deal with the baggage of that. No, but I mean, you know, I will be dealing with the trauma of growing up in those eras. But I love. It makes me so hopeful seeing how different the community and the society that younger people are going to grow up in, if they are a little different. And how much, hopefully much more of a positive experience they'll have.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see it like in, say, 10, 15, 20 years' time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, considering what, you know, you and myself, Kevin, have seen from, say, the 80s to where we are now type of thing. But, sorry, I just wanted to go... Oh, sorry, you go, Kev.
Sorry, just lastly, I say that because your film strikes me as hopeful, despite the struggles. It made me happy to think that
it's the exact thing that I want you guys to take away from the end of the film, is that there is a level of hope, even though it is hilarious. And that last line, which you will not say because I don't want you to ruin it, is really funny.
That's all right.
It's really funny.
Great bookends.
I know, it's great bookend.
But the cool thing is, you still do like bring in a little bit of that. What would I say? If you're comparing, say, what the 80s were like to say now, you've still got those homophobes. There's probably, do you know what I mean? Out there type of thing. And I think you really brought it into that movie really well. I thought, because
I mean, there's still,
yeah. And you can have a laugh of, like, you think, because what was going through my head, I was thinking the guy who did what he does in the end, you're thinking, what a dick. Do you know what I mean? And then you sort of have a bit of a laugh about, no, I'm not laughing at Nate. I'm laughing at the guy who did the, you know, at the end. But it's, you can have a laugh because how Nate sort of goes with it all type of thing. So it sort of works really well. But
what's really powerful about, no, that's fine. Do you know what's really powerful about that final scene? And I won't say too much about it, but there's so many like interesting, like, things around social conditioning that is really interesting in that final scene. You've got one particular guy who's like, don't say this, don't do this, and stuff like that. And the guy, and Nate, who is neurotypical, is kind of like, well, hang on a second. No, I don't want to be like this. I've just seen you do this amazing thing.
You are awesome.
I want you to like be like, hey, stop this
ashamed
shit.
of it. Yeah.
It's a weirdly beautiful moment.
It's a really beautiful moment, and but it doesn't take away the authenticity of the fact that you know, I mean, I think 2 months out of shooting the film, I was walking with my director, my costume designer, in a park somewhere in Sydney, and I was called, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I was called an, you know, FAGGOT out of a guy in a car. And so it's not, you know, this is not gonna, I mean, I was wearing pearls, so, you know, take that with what you will. But you know, this does happen, and it is going to always happen, and it's not ever going to be shied away. And I think I love the fact of that moment where he just is like, not going to take this, and you think, oh my God, what's going to happen after this incredibly like dangerous moment, this fearful moment. And I think it also puts it on its head. I think a lot of times we see, you know, physical assaulting violence in film and we think, holy crap, this is quite discerning, but it almost by the next little bit of the section, it kind of takes that away and it takes the edge off, because it actually all means something, and it's quite beautiful, and it shows strength. And I think it shows the neurodiverse person being highly just the badass, the awesome, the icon, somebody that I wish I was, and which I hopefully will be.
New romantic.
Oh, yeah. We actually couldn't take that film because that was a sci-fi film from the 90s. So
right, okay.
I think so. They were having all these discussions about the name. So we were like, what do we call this film?
Just sorry, out of curiosity, right? Like, just going back to say the beginning of that film, you know, Kev, you were talking about this earlier and all that. From an autistic person's perspective, is it very what's the word I'm looking for? Like, difficult to know what to do to find a partner? So, for example, in the film, he meets, I'm assuming, some dude at a pub or a club or something, right? And then the guy's happy to go home with him and all that. Is that like, you know, would a lot of autistic people really struggle, like, oh crap, well, maybe this is what I have to do. I have to go home now and do this. Oh, okay, do I need to do this? You know, because, I just don't know.
Look, look, it's always hard to be like the one autistic person that kind of has to be like, what do all autistic people think? But I think, like, in terms of my own perspective within this space, I kind of look at to be like, you know what? I talk to a lot of my friends about sex, and I talk a lot of my friends about the way things are and the way things should be. And so for me personally, I just looked at this as a way of like validating my experience as a person who is queer, who is neurodiverse, and kind of like tries to understand what other people can see about someone like me. So in terms of that scene, I think it's really open-ended. It basically, because it cuts between the dinner scene and the next particular scene where he's making out with the guy, and it doesn't really need to kind of be, it doesn't have to be so much, because in a lot of ways it's a transactional relationship, and it is a relationship that is not built on any level of trust or faith or any sort of level of meat. No.
I get that. Yeah. Some of our listeners may not get that one, but that's all good.
But yeah, no, it there is no like level of grounding or any sort of like sustenance to that relationship. And yeah, I think that's kind of where that whole scene takes place.
And I think it's a really good, because, you know, maybe people think, oh, damn, this is how I have to meet people. Do you know what I mean? But the way you've turned it around, because even like, I'm not autistic, but I have struggled, you know, I've never met, well, don't get me wrong, I've met loads of people in bars and all that type of stuff, but I wouldn't be able to say that I've ever met like a proper partner that from a bar type of thing. But being able to build that relationship and really learn about someone is where I've been able to, I suppose, meet the best people, if that makes sense. And I have a feeling that that's what Nate sort of did. But Food on John, you were even talking, you brought this up at the beginning yourself. You could fully relate to not being able to work in with the bar sort of lifestyle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's very intense. With dating in general, to sort of relate to what we were just saying as well. I always felt like everyone else had a rudder and good wind, and I had a paddle. That's kind of how I felt in the dating scene. I was just sort of wondering how the hell to get around. But dare I say, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but dare I say the club scene amongst the gay community is quite intense sometimes, and really wasn't for me, but being autistic, I think, and also being new to that scene and being open, I didn't know that there was any other way. So I guess there was a period where I thought I was being a bad gay or something, like, why can't I fit in? Why aren't I doing this right?
Honey, I'm being a bad gay all of the time.
Yeah. But it really, and I think, somewhat related to autism, it didn't even occur to me until I saw a poster years later for like a rock and roll bar called Black Fag instead of Black Flag, and it was for people who were into the sorts of music that I'm into to go and hang out, who were queer, and I was just like, oh, there can be different places, It was sort of that obvious things not occurring to me thing, I think, was a part of it. But unfortunately, I didn't have cool friends to fill me in that there were other ways. I kind of had to stumble through that myself.
But do you know what? This is probably where people are learning. We are starting to go, oh, wow, you don't have to go to... So up in Brisbane, we've got like some really famous like gay bars, like The Beat, the Wickham? The Wickham, yeah, the Wickham. And you could be like, oh yeah, and you could probably go in there and pick up. But like, I've gone into some of those bars, and the music in there just isn't my taste. Do you know what I mean? So especially being ADHD, it would almost be like far out, man, sensory overload, Yeah. But I could see how that could be bad. Is that what you struggled with, Kev?
Yeah, well, let's be clear, not to denigrate The Beat or the Wickham. They've done so much.
No. Don't get me wrong. I've gone to some of those clubs and had the best night out ever, man.
They've done so much for the community, and the beer has been around forever, and is fantastic. It's just not my scene, and I didn't know that there were other scenes. But yeah, it was a sensory overload thing. It was the types of people you did meet different types of people in different types of venues, and the scene there wasn't for me.
I mean, look, this is something that I would totally touch upon in a next film, because there is actually something I'm working on currently, which is also another neurodiverse film, but it's actually more about sound. Because for me personally, when I think about the Sydney gay dating scene, or Sydney club scene more specifically, is that, for people who live in Sydney or listening to this or watching it right now, there's Arc and there's Stonewall and there's a whole bunch of other places as well across Oxford Street. And a lot of those places play EDM music. And I think for me growing up, I was a top 40 baby. And then I sort of like continued on that sort of thing. And, now I'm listening to big, massive, EDM music, where a lot of it is about the foundational element of emotion of what you feel inside, and I think that is kind of what's driving a lot of sort of what I want to talk about next is, the importance of sound in movies. I mean, sound in movies is important anyway. It's like 80% of a film is sound in a lot of ways. I think that, it shows a kind of level of diversity within our community, where it's like we don't like all the same thing, and it's all really great, but I think it's also really interesting in terms of like the things that we want to do next, and the things that we want to like and the way that we connect with people, and the way we love people, and the way we and
maybe I'm wrong in saying this, I don't know, maybe some people have had this stereotypical thought of what a gay person needs to be like type of thing, and thought going to The Beat. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh my god, I'm gay, people. So that means I need to wear all of this stuff, and it's like, nah, you just be yourself.
Guess what, Will? And I think what was so great about our character of Nate, our main protagonist, is that we've actually seen a lot of autistic people being presented in such a specific way. Button-up shirts. Hey, John's here autistic. I don't see a button-up shirt. I'm an autistic person. You don't see a button-up shirt. So one big brief that I gave to my costume designer is I do not want my main autistic character wearing a button-up shirt. I don't want him pulling up a button-up shirt all the way. It's ridiculous. It's reductive. I don't like it.
With like a bow tie or something.
I mean, maybe I'm dealing with my own. Maybe I'm dealing with my own fucking trauma.
No, but I get it. Yeah,
but it's like I don't feel like we are living in a world that's instilling this level of diversity within our beautiful community, which is that I don't wear button-up shirts. I hardly wear a suit. Literally every single time you see somebody on a show that has got autism, it's always they're buttoned up, they're wearing earphones. Okay, our character is wearing earphones for some of the film, but I digress. It's still an important part of him.
That leads quite nicely into one of the other questions we were going to ask, which is what are your thoughts on neurotypical people, not just portraying, but also writing for neurodivergent people in film?
Oh God, that's a big question. Look,
it's a spiky one.
It's a spiky one, isn't it?
Because I think the reason why we thought about this question was we were sort of like talking about like, you know, exactly what you were just talking about, and is it okay for people to be playing that, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the answer to that is it's weird. If you don't have a neurodivergent playing somebody who is neurodivergent, it just seems kind of weird and fake and a little bit like it's a bit of an SNL sketch, which is just that like it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel weird. It feels really weird, and it feels really reductive, and I don't really like. It feels really reductive in terms of like it just feels weird. I think we are living in a time now where, you know, if you don't have an autistic person playing that sort of character, you will be found out, and it's going to be super weird for you. And
they've had their time to try.
They've had their time,
and there is
there is so many other fantastic roles that are out there for you to play, and it's just time that we sort of space. One of my very good friends, who's an incredible person named Cadence Bell, who, if anyone is on the call or listening to this afterwards, should Google her. She's an amazing. She's also writing a lot of neurodiverse stuff as well.
Sorry, what's her name again?
Cadence Bell. She's an amazing filmmaker. She's a trans female filmmaker. She did this brilliant piece of thing where she had, I don't know if she produced it herself, but she talked about the kind of layers of who you are and which characters you're actually able to play. And she talked about it from a level of access. So like, if you are somebody in that community, you should be able to play that community, and then stuff where there isn't associated, like not trans, not things like that, but it's just there. I think it's really great. I can't exactly remember what the actual thing is, but it's a really great thing. In terms of writing content, that I think is a different thing. I think, again, you don't. I've one of my favorite short films is, this is going to sound super goddamn weird, is a film about a trans child directed and written by a white straight director, which is like weird and super weird, and I'm going to get attacked like anything. But what's great about the film is the level of consultancy that was done within the trans relatability. The director and the writer used a trans actor. The director and writer used an amazing trans charity throughout the whole of the thing to make sure that the thing was there. They've always supported trans people. They've always been around trans people. So it's just, I think if you're doing and writing from a level of advocacy and allyship, and you do it in a way that feels nuanced and respectful and understanding, that you can give the space to when you need to people who don't have the space, then why the hell not?
See, an example where I think none of that was done, and I hope I'm not wrong here, but it seems to me like when I saw that show, The Good Doctor, I got a bit infuriated. I was like, I don't think an autistic person wrote this, and I know that guy's not autistic, and I'm just seeing another Rain Man. Really pissed off.
I can't with The Good Doctor. Yeah. Everyone that says The Good Doctor to me is I scream in agony. What?
So many stereotypes.
Do you get people going, oh man, have you seen The Good Doctor? Yeah. And it would be
I get a lot of have you seen Love on the Spectrum?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I do hear
And
that
look,
a lot.
and I will say this because people who know me have known what I feel about that show in a public forum. I think that show has been made to an audience that's not us, and I think it is now time to. And I think there is absolutely value in that show, and there is value in that show existing in the space that we have. In it's done extremely well. It's won Emmys. It has a lot of amazing stuff to it. I am not going to take that away from that film. And I think it is now that we continually are able to build more intersectional stories and have neurodiverse people in the front, as I talk about in terms of consultancy within the process. Because, and just, I'm hoping that Neuromance and other things, like, of course, Heartbreak High,
I was actually about to say that. Because
Yeah.
with Chloe Hayden from Heartbreak High, a big thing that she was really big on for one taking the role was the Netflix people were really very good at coming to her and consulting on all of those little things.
Fantastic idea by Netflix. Fantastic idea. I would love to say this is something that's really amazing. So I've got a really good friend. So Screen Australia is doing this really interesting thing right now where they're sort of like thinking of the screen industry like a bit of a Lego piece, like a Lego puzzle. And they're breaking it apart to kind of go, well, who is allowed to be on set? Who is allowed to kind of be a part of this thing? And as I'm realizing, if you guys are listening to this after an audio, I'm like picking it apart like it's a Lego piece. And what's really great is one of my good friends who I love and is amazing is actually an access coordinator. And one of the great things about an access coordinator is they're starting to build on these discussions about how to make sets more inclusive. And I love that. And that's really awesome. So essentially what an access coordinator does, for anyone who doesn't know, is that they are brought in the development phase of a production, and they sort of go, okay, who wants to talk to me and who feels safe talking to me? And they will talk to them about the access needs, and then they will not in any way, shape or form disclose their person's access needs. And they will actually bring that back to Netflix and say, this is what you need and this is what you have to do. Please do it. And I love that. Now, of course, I have gotten a lot of access coordinator stuff wrong. So my friend is listening to this. Please don't kill me in the comments. I know who you are. But I think that's really fantastic. And I think we are having a lot of these discussions as an industry about how do we make it better? How do we make it more equitable? How do we support people who are neurodivergent? And I love that. I love that we're having that discussion. I love that we're building on that. It's a great thing.
And it's only going to get better because we're going to learn, hey, that didn't work. Because sometimes even within the community, we try to help and maybe we don't get it right or something, because neurodiversity is so diverse within itself, you're bound to piss someone off. Because,
exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Because there's things that probably work well for you that don't work well for me, and vice versa, especially with Kevin, and vice versa, you know what I mean? So it's sometimes hard to get everything right.
Well, 100%.
It makes me think of everything you just said makes me think of Will's business, because Will works in education, helping neurodiverse people thrive in education. And you basically just described his business model.
But
Will is now obsolete.
But the hardest thing with education is like I said before, there is so many, because the biggest thing we're trying to figure out in education is there's so many different ways of learning, but how do we incorporate that into a classroom, for example? It can be very difficult, but there can be little things that are put into place to make it a bit better than what it originally is. So, for example, just taking breaks. Sorry, you go.
Do you know what I love most about the industry that I'm in is that I think we are at a time right now where, in a lot of ways, we're looking at what we do and what we are, and we're kind of creating ways of making things more accessible and making things more interesting and engaging. And that's what I love most about our industry. And I mean, one of like the first ideas that I wanted to pitch as a producer was because I was terrible at science and I love talk shows. So not that I had ever made this, and if anyone wants to make it, please do. I'd love to watch it. Is a series that is a talk show but has a science-based element, and so the celebrities would do science experiments but also talk about what they actually have promoting. Because as a queer person, I loved Ellen growing up. Sorry, just had to. But I also had to, I also had to study for a science exam. And I think what's really interesting right now is when I consider, and I graduated in 2012. I know, thank you, I don't look it. But we're now looking at how we can make things better. And I think within, the 10, 12 years that I've graduated from high school, it is way more interesting to just basically go online and, look at this sort of thing. People are creating really interesting stuff. People are using AI and artificial intelligence to be able to help with that sort of thing. And I think we're having such of these really interesting discussions about our industry and the way we learn and the way we are and the way we develop and the way we create. Some of those discussions negative? Yes, that's the problem.
Yeah, totally. So when you were describing that science show, for some reason I had in my head, because you're talking about a celebrity, and so my wife is a big fan of who's that the singer who used to be going out with Justin Bieber? What's her name? Hang on, let me check it out.
Oh, Selena Gomez.
Selena Gomez, yes. So my wife loves Selena Gomez, right? And Selena Gomez has a cooking show, right? And she has the celebrities come and because they're celebrity chefs a lot of the time, and then they like cook up stuff. I'm thinking like something similar like that, but instead of them like, having celebrity chefs, they're just having celebrities and they're doing science experiments.
Sorry, when you said who is this guy, I was thinking you were going to say like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Dr. Carl. When you said Justin Bieber, I was like, where the hell is this going now?
Yeah, sorry, man. Sorry, man. That's a neurodivergent mind going wherever, man.
I was like sitting there going, where is the linkage to what I just said?
All good, man.
We got there eventually.
Yeah, totally. So, we are getting to the end of the podcast here. So, tell us a little bit about the festival you're going to be premiering at. Maybe put a date, and we'll go on from there.
Super exciting. So this Friday night, our film will be world premiering, playing behind a beautiful other neurodiverse film as well, actually, which is super amazing. So Friday night's going to be the place for it if you're neurodiverse, called When Time Got Louder. My film, of course, is not that actual name. But yeah, so Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Event Cinemas, George Street. Buy your tickets now, queerscreen.org.au. We get to screen at this beautiful festival called the Queer Screen Mardi Gras Film Festival. It's the 31st edition. Older than me. Thank God there's something out there that's older than me. And it's been running since 1993. It's the I think it's the oldest LGBTI film festival, especially in Australia, I believe. It was probably the biggest. I can't remember. It's one of the two. It's terrible. I'm coming on this and I don't know the facts about the festival that I want to. But it's been a really influential festival, and so many creators and people have played that festival, and it's a festival that actually helped me come out as a gay man. So I'm truly honored and super appreciative, and I have so much respect for that festival for screening our film, and I'm just really humbled and really excited. So how to buy tickets? Just go to queerscreen.org.au, select the film When Time Got Louder. You can buy tickets there. And also, as a fantastic thing for all our fantastic neurodiverse, DDN, disabled, deaf, neurodiverse kings, queens, and non-binary fellows, you can get $12 tickets. So as a way of supporting and, understanding that our community will not always has a lot of money and always has inhibitations. What's the word I'm looking for?
We can go with that one.
Barriers to employment, So you get $12 tickets. So it's really great. So
that's
feel
cool.
free. Can't wait to see you there.
No.
Our whole team's going to be there.
What I would like to say as well, let's say that maybe, because we're talking, so this is happening on the 19th of Feb 2024, am I correct?
The 16th.
Oh, 16th, sorry, 16th. Shit, got that one, fucked that one up, didn't I? All right. Okay, now, the only reason why I say this, right, let's say someone's listening to this on the 17th and they've missed out. Where will they be actually able to watch the film, say, in a later date?
Well, our film is currently going through festival distribution.
Okay, yep.
So unfortunately, I can't really give them an online screener because, unfortunately, because of that, which is unfortunately not how festivals work. They're like, we need you to play your film and not have it online, which is totally fine.
That's cool.
But we are looking at film festivals, so hopefully we will have some really fantastic news to share soon about the film sort of jumping around different areas of the world. Hopefully you'll see me. You might see my director Brody. You might see our amazing actor, our lead actor.
And you're single as well, right, mate?
And I'm totally single. So
just trying to hook you up, mate. Just trying to hook you up.
Just like, just being like, hey, you want to go to a bar after the film?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a very late session. So maybe half of the bars in Sydney will be closed, but like just, seeing how we go there. Nice. But yes, totally single. Totally not using this film as a way of me getting a date.
Well, good luck with that anyway, mate.
Takeaway.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome. But look, let's say, let's say maybe someone is interested in going on a date with you, mate. Where can they connect and find out about your work?
Or connecting professionally.
Only joking. What I mean by that is, where can they actually, maybe, do you have a Facebook page or something like that where people can connect with the film?
Everything. So a lot of my stuff is just my name. So at Kyle Goldfinch. I've just started a Twitch and I have just started streaming with my name Finchian Film. I know how goddamn original is that. And yeah, so feel free to hit me up. If you're a festival and you want to screen my film, just email me. My email will be heading around. Honestly, my number's probably on the internet at this point, so feel free to just search for it and you'll probably find it. I'll probably just get a call at 3 a.m. asking about a screening, which is great. Feel free to hit me up, talk to me, tell me how good the film is. Tell me if you hated the film, and I'll block you straight away. That's fine. I'm okay with that. And yeah, please, Friday 16th, 8:30 p.m.
Nice. Awesome, man. You are a legend. Thank you so much for... Oh, hang on. Someone has actually reached out. Oh, someone said, thanks, guys. Have really enjoyed this section. Congrats on the film, Kyle. And that's from Eugene Gilks. I don't know if I pronounced... I don't know how to pronounce... Hang on. I'll put it up on the screen from our main man there. So, you've got a follow already.
Thank you.
Hang on.
Reach out to me everywhere.
Yeah. Cool. But definitely. Yeah, are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll connect on LinkedIn there. Yeah, sweet. All right.
I'm on everything. Cool. Everything that is above here on this beautiful screen on the right-hand side. I am on.
Yeah, good job. So that's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So definitely.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is, man. It's taken me a while to get that down pat, man. Hey. But we got that. Wait, Fodon, John, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we close off?
I was going to say, I can tell you're a film person because you knew to turn your hand left and say right.
Oh, yeah, right. This is what happens. I'm great at film. I'm terrible at streaming.
Yeah, totally.
No, thanks for coming on, Rob. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's been a really cool topic to talk about. Definitely opened up my eyes to a lot of different stuff as well. So I think this is an area that, like you said, needs to be spoken about more. And we are slowly learning more. And I think it's from people like yourself making great films like you have in the perspective that you've done it, that is really going to help people get a better understanding of maybe autism or, what an autistic gay person goes through on a daily basis. So no, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
And just a massive shout out to my amazing team who kind of helped foster this film. We shot it 2 years ago, and I'm really just deeply proud of them. You know, I heard the stories coming out.
Do you have any names you want to shout out, mate?
I mean, I have to shout out my EPs, Anne-Marie, David, and Paul, who literally have helped facilitate and build on this sort of stuff. And also, I just want to give a massive shout out to both my director, Brody, and also our main lead, Nate, lead Will. Oh my God, that's terrible that I've almost forgotten his name. Will is actually studying in the United States right now. And I just want to use this as a way of saying that I think we've heard so much shit in our community over the last, 12 to 24 months that I think it's just great to celebrate a neurodiverse person absolutely goddamn killing it. So congratulations, Will, and I can't wait to see you back in the country.
Good job. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. And look, for anyone listening, please connect with Kyle. He's doing some amazing stuff. Please subscribe, like, and follow to all of our social media platforms if you haven't already done so. My name's Will Wheeler. Join with my co-host, I'm about to say Kevin, Photon John, and this is Neurodivergent Mates. Till next time.
Bye, guys.